Hey everyone, and welcome back to another Movie Mates review. I am Matthew, of course, joined by my wonderful co-host and best friend.
Callum.
Hey man, lovely to see you. On today's show, we're back with another Disney review, where, as you've seen by the title, we're reviewing the latest Disney released Raya and the Last Dragon. So I'm going to pass over to Callum to explain what we're going to be discussing in this review. So yeah, off to you, man.
So this film is about a kingdom that is united and then broken apart by the war over power. But their land is sort of savaged by this plague that this character Raya wants to put a stop to by uniting the five pieces of this mythical gem created by this dragon that she seeks out. And I
Mhm.
think it's a really great film. I think we both agree. We're
Definitely.
going to be talking non-spoiler and spoiler. But first, I sort of wanted to ask you your expectations of this because I think this is probably the least marketed Disney film I've ever seen.
For sure. Yeah, no, I'm exactly the same. I recently saw an article where that this was like the first time that Disney, obviously they've sort of embraced sort of Asian cultures before. Obviously we've seen Mulan, we reviewed that on the channel as well. And here they've sort of, I think in the article that I had saw, it sort of detailed that it was like a Southeast Asia sort of culture. I don't know whether that's, the Philippines, Malaysia, those kind of around that area, Southeast Asia. But it's a very original concept, I think, and it's one that I didn't see marketed a lot. It's even for um for reviews of reviewers. I think the only one I had seen was like Chris Stuckman, and he's one of the big ones on YouTube. But I hadn't really seen anyone else talk about it recently. But yeah, it's surprising. Maybe due to the pandemic, just hasn't got the opportunity to be marketed as such.
Yeah, and I had, in general, probably low expectations going in, simply because, that this is a sort of fantasy film. Of course, there's dragons and, sort of this war around magic.
Hmm.
And, I don't usually love that genre. And, the teaser that I did see, which was sort of just Raya encountering the dragon Sisu for the first time, I found myself a bit underwhelmed with that, but I think it was because out of context that clip didn't really work comedically. But I think in context, the film is fantastic.
Yeah, one thing I really like about it is that it's such a great narrative that it's a mix of a lot of different genres. It's sort of, without giving too much away, obviously we'll probably talk about it more in spoilers. It is somewhat sort of a little bit, post-apocalyptic. I suppose you've obviously mentioned that plague, and I think the fact that there is a mix of those genres sort of as well, it just feels quite original, which surprises me because I thought it was going to be anything but that. I thought it was going to be really cliched, especially.
Thank you.
No worries.
Yeah, no, I as well, had sort of written that, I find this to probably be, amongst the most original Disney animated studios films. And then, by the end, I'd sort of come to the realization it's Avengers Endgame, but a better version of it.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it absolutely can be seen that way. I think for me, I will get into spoilers, but like potential criticisms with that as well, and why it wasn't. It maybe did. I think it definitely did derail towards the end a little bit. I think it kind of felt like it had to become sort of somewhat of an action animated film with all that jazz and stuff. But yeah, I think one of the great stuff is that it's more of like a character journey where this character Raya meets a lot of different people from a lot of different backgrounds on her journey. Like all of them, it's sort of a group that you wouldn't necessarily expect to get to be together. That they wouldn't expect them to communicate and sort of grab towards each other. But yeah, it's a fantastic group of different people that really does work well.
Yeah, and I love how capable as a character Raya is, because I think she's one of the few in recent Disney history, including sort of Moana, where the
Definitely.
film really gives her center stage, allows her to be, a powerful character who, needs the assistance of others, but that's because it's, this sort of insurmountable task, but where she actually, needs to accomplish things, she's very capable. And, I do see this film as sort of similar to Moana in a few ways, most notably the dragon Sisu is pretty much, Maui if he wasn't a useless sack of shit.
You really hate Maui.
If you think about it, it's this sort of this
You're
sort of
welcome.
you know sort of secluded character, who did try to help humanity, but in this instance, they succeeded.
Yeah, I think the Moana comparison is definitely justified. I have to agree, and I think maybe that's where the film could be criticized in a sense that I think this film because of obviously Disney isn't obviously with the pandemic and stuff, not as many animated movies have been released as of late. So Moana is one of the recent ones. It is very similar to a very recent film that is Moana. So even though I think there's maybe 4 or 5 years between them, it is very very similar. And
Yeah,
I think one thing about this one that I actually really enjoyed is, like you're saying, the character of Raya is very capable. There's not really much character development given to her, but I think that's because she doesn't really need it. She already is who she is at the start of the film, which I think is a real strength. Like, and I think that's why I like Moana so much as well. And I think, like you said, she's very capable. The voice acting as well is great. I think she's actually voiced by the same actress who plays Rose in the Star Wars films as well, which is
yeah.
interesting.
Kelly Marie Tran.
Yeah, she's great, and there's a lot of great voice actors here. There's I think Gemma Chan as well, who is oh, what's her name? It's like Namira, is it?
Minerva.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's it. And who does she play in this film though?
Oh, sorry. I thought you were talking about her character in Captain Marvel.
Sorry,
Uh,
no,
because
no,
I thought that you were trying to relate where you may have seen her. She plays the character of Namari, I believe. I didn't
Yeah,
actually
yeah.
like I saw the cast before, but I sort of saw the cast list before, but because she's English, I didn't actually know which character she was playing because
Hmm.
obviously she's playing it with an American accent. But I imagine she was playing Namari, the
Yeah, I think
princess.
she was. I think she was, and yeah, and I think it's got Benedict Wong as well from
Oh
the
yes.
MCU, which is great. So, yeah, the voice acting is fantastic, and it's very well animated. I have to say, it's very well animated.
And in that sort of clip that I'd seen, the character of Sisu the dragon did sort of come across a bit more uh annoying, rather than the very pleasant character that we actually see in the context of the film. And I love that the dragon is actually a character in their own right, with their own personality.
Yeah,
Because I think often we've seen before, in films like like The Hobbit, The Desolation of Smaug, and other films that feature dragons. That they're usually either mute, or there's a purpose behind finding them that doesn't actually lead to any development of that character.
yeah,
That they're either
definitely.
used as like a MacGuffin or a pet. Here she's a character, and I think
Yeah,
it easily could have been that finding her was the quest rather than assembling the actual MacGuffin of the film. Finding
it's
her was
unique. Yeah,
important, but it wasn't the quest itself. She got to be a part of
yeah,
that.
yeah. One thing I kind of mentioned in our Willy's Wonderland review in that sense is that it sort of subverts the character of the janitor in that film, where I kind of said that finally we have like a horror protagonist that isn't scary. Oh, sorry, that isn't scared. Should I say? At this one, I kind of would liken it to finally we've got like a dragon portrayal that isn't done for like action particularly, or like to be a threat or a villain. Here it's a, like you said, the character is kind of in that journey herself for the quest for the gem, rather than her being the final destination there. So it's absolutely, it's really great stuff, and I think it adds the originality, of course, the post-apocalyptic sort of essence of the film as well. It really adds to that. And yeah, I think it's a very unique film, to be honest with you. And in a similar way to Space Sweepers, it does borrow a lot from a lot of genres, but works well together.
And when it comes to sort of the animation style, I think both agree it's very impressive. But I think it's getting harder to discern, what's Pixar and what's Disney Animated
Yeah,
Studios, because I think I do really miss the 2D animation.
yeah, so do I. I absolutely love 2D, maybe a bit more than 3D, to be honest with you. It looks remarkable, don't get me wrong, but it almost looks too real at this stage, especially
Yeah,
the surroundings, and especially Raya's father in this film. Like, he actually looked real, which was really off-putting to me. Like, I didn't really
yeah.
enjoy that.
Yeah, what I find with the character, of Raya's dad and Sisu's human form, they actually resemble the actors.
Yes,
So
yeah,
so
yeah, they do.
that looks like Aquafina and that looks like Daniel Day Kim. So yeah, I find that. I mean, I find that kind of cool, but again, yeah, a bit off-putting.
Yeah,
Because animation you know and live action should be very distinct. In
they
many
should. Yeah,
obvious ways. But I think if you have the technological capability to make really impressive, realistic looking 3D animation, then you could just make some like incredible 2D animation, and
oh
that
yeah,
could be
for
like your
sure. Yeah,
USP. Because I feel like too many are moving towards 3D
I
animation, and
think
I
I
think
think
it's
yeah.
I don't know, I miss 2D.
I think some of our favorite Disney films, Callum, are the 2D animation. I think Aladdin we really both enjoyed, and that film still has a really beautiful visual quality to it without having the 3D. In fact, I think if Disney came out and the next film was to be 2D, it actually blew me away because with all these modern ones, I think, you know, looking back on our Disney series for the last 4 or 5 episodes there, it was just 3D animation. From that sort of like Chicken Little phase onwards, around the sort of mid 2000s. So yeah, it was refreshing to see. It would be refreshing to see like a 2D animation for sure. Like it's something that would be very rare nowadays, and it's usually just saved for like cartoons for like Teen Titans Go or something like that. That's probably what I could the closest analogy I could use there.
Yeah. And one thing that sort of made me curious during this, because I didn't really twig to the fact that there was no music until maybe an hour in, and I was like, but because
Yes,
all the ones
yeah,
that we've talked about recently, Frozen 1 and 2, uh, even Wreck-It Ralph had, Ralph Breaks the Internet, had a little belter from Vanellope.
it did. Moana, of course.
All
Yeah.
the ones we've talked about recently, Moana included, they've all been musical, or at least featured some music. And I was just curious, what it is, with Disney that makes them choose which films are to be musical. And
Yeah,
quite
it's
honestly, thank
curious.
God this one isn't, because I feel like it would just needlessly drag it down.
I don't think it would work with this film. The film is almost. I think this film. There's a few like fart jokes and stuff. Like there's one in particular with some bugs and stuff like that. But apart from that, I wouldn't say the humor is too juvenile at all. It actually feels like a grown up film in its own right. The plot is quite juvenile in the sense that like it's a colorful dragon and those kind of things. But apart from that, like it deals with a lot of serious themes of conflict between these sort of sectors of society at the time, and obviously, without giving too much away, like it's got a villain that, well, it's got like there's no real villain in my opinion in this
Yeah, it's a
film.
it's a faceless plague,
Yeah, and I think that really
and
works because
conflict is the villain.
the conflict is exactly, Callum, exactly. And I think the fact that it is just a faceless plague, I can't remember what they call it, it's like the Demu or something. What do they call it?
I think it's the Druge
The
or
Druge
something.
or something like that. Something beginning with D. I can't remember what it was. Yeah, but
Drune.
the drone, that's it, the drone. I think the film doesn't have to waste time just giving that an explanation. Do you know what I mean by that? It just gets right
Yeah,
stuck in. It knows what it
it
is.
respects
It's
the intelligence of the audience.
exactly, mate, exactly. It does it really, really well. So
And
yeah.
yeah, and I think I definitely agree. The comedy isn't too juvenile, but the message is so broad and
Oh
easily to
yeah,
accept
for sure.
by a person of any age. It's really just about finding trust within familiar people, and I think it's a very positive message. You don't want to say trust anyone because there's some dodgy people about, but
Yeah.
trusting people that are worthy of it. I think it is a nice message, especially for kids.
Yeah. Oh, for
Because
sure. Yeah.
first and foremost, this is that's the target audience. But of course, they build it in. For they build it so that it's appreciated by anyone. But really, that's the goal, to please kids, maybe enlighten them by giving them this message. And I think it's a great one
Yeah.
that it gives.
Spot on, mate. No, I'd have to agree. I'd have to agree, buddy. I mean, that wraps up my non-spoiler remarks. To be honest with me, I don't have anything major. Anything from yourself?
Nothing further from me on non-spoiler.
Well, I'd love to hear your rating for this one, mate. Massive hit or piece of shit?
I would give the film a very firm, massive hit, and I
Yes,
was I was
lad.
confident going in it was going to be a piece of shit. I don't know what I give to Moana, but I was probably. I mean, I wish I'd given it a piece of shit. Like I did not enjoy Moana, if I'm honest.
Fair
But
enough.
this film, that's sort of the only one that I can relate to, because it's sort of the voyage by water. Where they have to, sort of,
Yeah.
complete this task. That I think there's some parallel there.
Mhm.
So that's probably the most similar in recent history to this one, and I appreciated this one so much more.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think it's a massive hit. I think it's a really great film. One of the best. I think it's one of the in the top 5 films of the year for me so far. It's definitely up there. It's going to be. I think it'll be hard for this one to remain in the top 5 for me just because of the slate that 2021 has. I think there could be a lot of good ones. But I think for me, it's a very, very unique film. I'm really pleased Disney are back on track. For a while there, I thought maybe they've lost their touch. I think there was a couple episodes there, mate, for us that were quite tough to get through. I think we'd both agree. But I'd
Whatever
say
one had the 2011 Winnie the Pooh one, I was just like, what am I doing with my life?
yeah, and I think it's nice to say that Disney, with its success, that I think we surprisingly enjoyed Frozen, and stuff. I certainly enjoyed Moana. maybe it wasn't to your taste, but I think Disney is back on track with Raya and the Last Dragon. I hope it does well. I really do, because it deserves it. But I don't know if it will, because they're charging 20 quid for this bad boy on,
Yeah.
on Disney Plus.
I
Um,
hope they continue on the trend of non-musicals as well, because
yeah,
I
yeah,
think I think that's more accessible.
yeah. I think musicals have their place, but I think for this film it definitely wouldn't have worked. So I'm glad they chose to ignore that. But in regards to spoilers, but I'll be honest with you, I don't have a huge amount to say, because weirdly, for a film that does have a lot going on, it's not a lot that I can make notes of, in my opinion. Anyway, for
Yeah.
me, I struggled, but I'll happily chip in where I can, mate, with your notes.
Yeah, I think on this sort of like voyage, type of film, I think it's, getting to like point A to point B. I think, and it's just stops along the way. Like that's sort of why I likened it to, Avengers Endgame, because it is this sort of ragtag group of people, who come together to, reunite all the pieces of this, magical artifact, to then bring back, the people who were dusted or turned to
Yes,
stone in this
yeah,
instance.
it's very
It
similar.
is, I think there are very similar shades, but I also think, this is a much better film in my opinion, and I do think there is less to say. I can't really, sort of rationalize why that is, but I think it's maybe just because like 80% of the film is the journey. There isn't really a,
Does it feel like to
a sort
you?
of,
Does it feel like, sorry to cut you off there, Callum? Does it feel like for
oh
this
no,
film it has a lot more heart to it, whereas Avengers Endgame it had a lot to it has a lot to conclude, it had a lot to set up, it had a lot of references and callbacks, so it kind of didn't have time for the heart. Do you think this film had a lot more heart to it? Like, so it felt that way for
yeah,
me.
I think so. Yeah, I think that's also why the notes are lacking, because I think the plot here isn't that deep. But the runtime is spent, building,
It's a long
an
film,
emotional
like,
connection to the
yeah,
characters.
yeah. It's
Yeah,
it's
it
it's
is.
it's
It is
quite
a long
long.
film, so
It's
I
nearly
was, I was
2 hours.
surprised. I didn't have more to say, but I think yeah, you've hit the nail on the head, to quote your frequent your frequent sentiment.
And you know what it
Yeah,
is,
I
buddy.
definitely agree with that.
And you know what it is, like, this is the first film in a while where I can remember, like, other than the Voices podcast which we just did, apart from that, this is one of the first films I've actually just sat down and watched in one sitting. Like, it did have
Mm,
me fixed on the screen for throughout. And I think if I was potentially going to criticize it in one aspect, it would be that there's no real sacrifice at play here. Everything is wrapped up in a nice little bow a little bit too easily for me, in the sense that everyone's
yeah,
returned, her father is back as well, and those kind of things. And I do get that, like, it's a Disney film, it's a kids film. It is supposed to have a happy ending, but I think it was a little bit too happy, to be honest with you. But that
yeah,
being said, like, it did subvert a lot of the expectations I had. I did think it was going to be, they would just kill off Raya's dad, or things like that, but they didn't. So I think it was unique, and it was quite nice of the faceless plague to allow everyone to come back. Like, they didn't just kill them,
mm,
which was nice of them, I suppose. But yeah, it was a little bit too a nice little bow for me, which I didn't really like.
yeah. I agree. I thought it was sweet, but I thought the forgiveness of Namari especially was a bit too sickening to accept. I thought.
Yeah, this film, it actually really reminds me of the Borderlands video game. I don't know if you've ever
Mm,
played that. It's sort of like a post-apocalyptic society where there's like different sort of factions and stuff. It's quite similar, and I think having a 25-minute flashback is actually a very good idea for the film. Like, it's not like a 5-minute flashback where it feels like it has to explain things. It actually is part of the film in its own right. Like, it's a young Raya, and I actually thought the whole film was going to be that, because I actually didn't see any
yeah.
promotion, so I had no idea that I thought that was Raya, but it's actually young Raya. Do you know what I mean? So it was interesting.
Yeah, I exactly, as I was watching that, I was thinking, yeah, she's younger than most Disney princesses, and she's younger than I had the impression that she was. But then, yeah, well, when it sort of pushed to even similar, has the same, a similar, time distance,
Hmm.
as Avengers Endgame, because I think that is an
Yeah, yeah.
appropriate amount of time to show the effects of, what a change that would have on
Agreed.
society.
Agreed.
And what one moment, during sort of the opening sequence, is right before it flashes back, is a moment where, Raya is traveling through the wasteland, on her, her traveling companion, Tuk Tuk, and it gave me real Ray vibes from episode 7.
Yeah, it absolutely did, didn't it? It absolutely did. That sort of nomadic soul, especially with Raya here. And I'm not actually sure what creature Tuk Tuk is. Is he like a huge armadillo or something? I don't know what he is, but he's huge.
Yeah, I guess, if there's dragons, there can also be this huge fantasy. I was about to
Hedgehog
say something completely
thing.
wrong, but yeah, Oh,
Yeah.
by the way, I don't think I told you this, but I really embarrassed myself in P7 when
Oh no. Is
uh
it taking a
I
turn?
accidentally no in front of my P7 teacher I accidentally referred to as an armadillo as an armadildo, and I genuinely I didn't know what a dildo was. I was in P7. I was an innocent 11-year-old boy. I don't even know where I heard
What
that.
was the teacher's
But
reaction
then
to that?
like his eyes like shot open and he looked like he'd shot himself.
He was like, "What?" Oh
Yeah, like
man,
he hated me, but like that definitely didn't help.
definitely didn't help. Oh man, sure. Poor Callum. Poor Callum. We've all been there. We've all made those
You
kind
know,
of mistakes.
yeah. I'm sure we'll talk about our school days one day soon.
Yeah,
But
for sure.
you know, when it came to I think we can both agree the forgiveness towards Namari was a bit questionable. And
Mhm.
I think that really just hurt in the moment in the beginning because I really thought Namari and Raya were vibing. And
Yes, I know.
even I like didn't really get suspicious of that character until they entered the dragon chamber. And I thought in that moment, I did think it was going to go because I'd heard this was sort of a great film for representation. I thought they were going down the route of maybe a same sex relationship
That's what I was
because
thinking
I
as
did sort of
well.
get
That's what
that.
I was thinking.
I got that impression from the beginning, and I haven't really heard that mentioned because I suppose I haven't really been seeking out review material for this, but I'm sure that was I don't know if it was intentional,
It's
but I have to
exactly what I was
imagine
thinking, mate.
other people picked up on it.
It's exactly what I was thinking as well throughout the film. I would have actually really enjoyed that. I really would have respected that as well. And you know what I mean. And I think the Namari character is an interesting one. Do you know what I mean? She's certainly quite unique in her own right. And I don't know. I think the film does do a lot, especially like we were kind of saying in the opening. It does do a lot for representing that kind of Southeast Asian culture, which is sounds interesting. I'm not too sure like how obviously like for like the sort of belief system is there. Obviously I'm not that well educated in that culture, but I think it seems very
I
interesting.
imagine most of them don't pray to the dragon gods.
Yeah, yeah, probably not, probably not. But I think that's very interesting. Obviously, um, we have actually a story about us with the dragon, don't we? Sorry, no, it was
Uh,
a lion.
Again, it's a lion,
It looked
bruh.
like a
Like
dragon, mate. It looked like a
it
bloody
didn't look like
dragon.
a dragon.
It did.
It did not look like a dragon,
It
mate.
did look like a
Like,
dragon,
I'm
mate.
sure we'll probably like post it. Well, like put a picture in a video one of these days. But I
Yeah.
mean, do you want to tell that story?
Well, Callum and I used to study Mandarin in school, and our Mandarin teacher, who shall remain nameless, um, had us sort of there was loads of first years in the schools, like the younger students, and we had to dress up in a lion costume. The full get up, the trousers, and then I think was I the front or were you the front?
I was the butt
You were the butt. You got the
because
short straw.
you were then tossing like the
The
rose
candies.
blossoms or whatever out your
Yeah,
mouth.
yeah. So basically, you had to throw candies to first years dressed in a lion costume, and yeah, it was if I can find the photo, I'll try and put it in here. Hopefully, I can find it.
I mean,
But
I'll send you the photo if you need it.
oh, no, I think I have it in the old year 14 photo collection or something
Hmm.
in the Facebook or sorry in the group in the Google photo thing. But yeah,
I mean,
it
we
was a
might
fun
not.
time.
We maybe shouldn't post it if there's a bunch of kids that we don't know in the photo.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Take our word for it, guys. It's a lovely photo. It's a magical photo. But
Maybe like crop it in very closely to just the
just the
body of
line.
the lion.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, yeah, it was a fun time. If I can put it in the thumbnail somehow, I will. I doubt it with my abilities, but yeah. Um, any more comments from you regarding Ryan the Last Dragon, mate?
Well, just I think Raya's father is probably one of the most likable dads.
Oh
He's
yeah.
one of the few that are sort of encouraging and also doesn't die. Usually they're either a dickhead and they live, or they're very encouraging and they die. But here we get a nice mix of both. But he says he's very optimistic about the idea of the kingdoms reuniting and them becoming Kumandra once more. But I mean, yeah, that seems pretty dependent on them keeping the gem, doesn't it? Who elected them keeper of it?
Yeah, I was about to say like he seems to want to have his cake and eat it. Like we'll keep hold of the gem, but you guys just it seems like it's made clear that Heart is the only faction of the kingdom that's sort of surviving or flourishing at the minute. It kind of seems like the
Yeah,
other ones are not doing too well. But yeah,
like they always say, the other people are trying to steal the gem from them. I'm like,
yeah.
doesn't exactly seem like a democratic process.
Is it ever revealed who shot him? By the way,
Uh, yeah, you see the
You see
person
the?
shoot him.
Do you? I can't.
Yeah,
Was it someone from the Fang section?
I think it must have been.
Yeah.
Like I don't remember, but you do absolutely see who it is.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was maybe just a foot soldier
Foot
though.
soldier, yeah. But I'm glad they kept him alive because he was really sweet. He was a very encouraging father figure for once in these Disney films, actually.
Yeah, and I think we've talked about the forgiveness of Namari, and I think the sort of betrayal at the beginning of the film is egregious enough, but then of course she actually shoots
Sisu,
Sisu.
yeah.
Sorry, it is Sisu, isn't it?
Sisu, yeah.
And she goes on to say that Raya is equally to blame. You were squeezing that trigger. That's the reason you misfired. Even when she was even when Sisu was talking to her
Yeah.
about trust, she was her finger was squeezing the
Yeah,
trigger.
it was already squeezing the trigger, wasn't it? Like she was definitely more to blame than Raya, if not totally to blame, for that. And yeah, like I think the Avengers Endgame comparisons are definitely right in this film in the sense that yeah, the dusting effect is very similar actually, apart from these ones turned to statues, and it actually really reminded me a little bit of Guardians of the Galaxy with the Power Stone, where they all have to hold a bit of the Power Stone in a
Mm.
sense at the end there, with like the purpley sort of mist or plague going on. It was really similar to that, which was nice. I suppose you're that felt another Disney project there in a sense. So yeah, quite similar.
Do you have anything further to say
I
on
don't, mate.
the
I
film?
don't. I'd love to hear a rating out of 10, mate. If we're gonna do it out of 10 as well.
So, this may be another instance where, time and rewatch changes our opinions and maybe lessens them. I think that happens
An X Men
probably
Dark
more
Phoenix
frequently
scenario.
than the opposite. I would say I would say we have worse feelings about films later on than usually improve.
Yeah,
Would you say that's the case?
yeah, definitely. X Men Dark Phoenix springs to mind, where I think I must have given it a 9 after we had seen that. Our
Yeah,
first mini
I'd
review, I
like to
think.
rewatch it again.
Yeah,
Like
it is
but I
good.
think
I do
Jessica
like it.
Chastain and probably the train sequence would probably put it pretty far in the bin.
Yeah, yeah, potentially. But yeah,
But when it comes to this film, I really loved it in the moment. Right now, as we're reviewing it, it's probably amongst top three or at least top five of the Disney animated films that we talked about.
wow, good stuff.
Be something like Hunchback of Notre Dame, Tangled. This, I think those would
Wow,
probably be.
great stuff.
I mean, that's in my current headspace. It may well fall right down in the future. But I really loved it. I think it you know upon thinking about it, it isn't that original. It does borrow from other Disney properties, but what it takes from it improves upon, which I think can only be respected. Pretty much
Million
every
percent.
concept that can be done in cinema has been done. Even if it's not done by mainstream Hollywood, it's probably been done in some obscure French film or something.
Yeah.
There's
No such thing
pretty
as
much
original idea.
there's yeah there's no more concepts to be mined from really, so you're going to end up borrowing from stuff. But I think anytime it does that, it improves upon it. I think it's probably one of the most likable main characters within any Disney film really. And I think it has an amazing supporting cast, voice wise and character wise. So I'd probably give the film a 9 out of 10. I
Yeah,
was
mate.
massively surprised.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the most surprising films, certainly in Disney's catalog and in the year. To be honest, it's one of the best in the year for me. It's right up there, I think, for me anyway. I know we have maybe slightly contrasting opinions on Soul, but as Soul with another modern animation film, I really enjoyed it, and this one's definitely up there. So I think for me, it's an 8.5. It's a really great film. I love this sort of culture, and yeah, it's an amazing sort of original concept. Maybe not so original, maybe, but like it does take a lot from a lot of different forms and medias and improves upon it. So that's all you can ask for, and it really did surprise me. So yeah, 8.5. But yeah, thanks very much for today, Callum. I appreciate your time as
Thank
well.
you.
And this video will be added to our Disney playlist where you can check out our Disney series and of course, reviews of, I think we did Flora and Ulysses. I'm sorry, Flora and Ulysses, which is one of the more recent Disney films that we reviewed.
Mm.
So yeah, hope you guys are all well. Hope your family and friends are all safe and well too. Take care and bye bye.
Bye bye.